Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. This episode is going to be a long one. We have a lot to cover. We're going to save the training camp stuff for last. We're going to go through all of the first 4 practices. So let's start with the most mundane news, or the most annoying news that's been plaguing Dolphins fans for months. And that's Dalvin Cook. So the update on Dalvin Cook is, and the reason I wanted to wait to do this video is he visited with the Jets Sunday. This pod will be out Monday. So Sunday, still no signing. I thought for sure he was going to be a Jet today. It still kind of feels that way, unfortunately. You know, he did say on Good Morning Football that he would love to be a Dolphin. Obviously grew up there. It would be great, but who knows? There's a lot of factors that go into it. It does seem like there's still interest there, and there have been reports recently that the Dolphins are still interested from various beat writers that are involved with the team. But it does seem very unlikely at this point. There are rumors of other running backs obviously being tradable, such as Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor. So, Jonathan Taylor would be cool because he's a little bit different type of running back, a little bit more power, and I loved him coming out of Wisconsin. He was one of my favorite players in that draft, so that would be cool. But Dalvin Cook, I think there's something about it that I really like. I really like the scheme fit. I love how he can affect the passing game too. You can keep him in there on third downs. He's a really good pass blocker. So, I know a lot of people have brought up the fact that, it depends on how Devon Achane is done. But the first padded practice won't be until Monday, which is by the time. So he might even just be a Jet at that point. I don't know. There's a lot of different things going into it. It sucks that they couldn't find a deal to get done with him. Who wouldn't want to see Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Dalvin Cook on the same team? I think we all would like to see that. But unfortunately it doesn't, and it's a double whammy that all signs point to New York, which is not great. It's like, we really wanted this guy. He's been rumored to, sign a contract with the Dolphins for how long? It's like, not only do you not get him, but he's going to your division rival. So yeah, just a lot of bad news early for some of these news stories. This next news story is a very small one. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa on his contract situation. This is what he had to say on Pro Football Talk. Excuse me. He says, quote, "I haven't talked about any contract since what I've understood with my 5th-year option." So this is pretty much what he said in his first press conference back, that he feels like he kind of went into more depth on that, where he feels like he hasn't really earned it, and he's okay with that. The reason I bring this up is because I think we all hope that he does get that contract extension. And they pay him as much money as they can. I think we all really, really do hope that. So I'm really looking forward. I think we all are looking forward to this season, and he's one of the more exciting parts of that. So I think we all hope Tua does get the contract extension after this season. Just a really quick one. This next news story is probably the biggest one. Very unfortunate news for so many different reasons, and especially that it had to happen to this fan base, which is very unfortunate. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Jalen Ramsey undergoes surgery, expected to miss extensive time. If you're not familiar with what happened, he had to be carted off at the very end of training camp. I think it was the second day of training camp. It's an absolute heartbreaker. There have been a lot of injuries in training camp. I'm forgetting the guard's name. Josh Sinton early in the regular season got hurt. That one sucked. Dustin Keller, I think it was 2013. He got hurt in training camp. Raekwon McMillan, his rookie year, tore his ACL, I think, on a punt return in preseason. There have been a lot of that sucks injuries early on in the season. This one is the worst one, obviously, because it's Jalen Ramsey. So it really, really sucks. But the stars really did align for the Dolphins. They got Vic Fangio. They added a lot of really nice depth to the defense. I think they got better at linebacker, adding David Long. Kader Kohou's in his second season. And like I said, you get the best defensive coordinator other than Bill Belichick in the National Football League, which means something. I mean, the fact that they even got him was awesome. I mean, we had that whole Philly thing going on with that, and it was a blessing that they even got him. So it just, the stars aligned, and it just sucks that we're not going to be able to see that. It does make the Cam Smith pick better, and makes it way better. Not having a tight end on the roster, which we're going to talk about. There's some interesting reports from that. Shout out to Omar Kelly for looking out for that. I think that's something that we've all been chomping at the bit to see. We'll discuss that later, but that pick has really come in clutch because Cam Smith does have a lot of talent, even though he's a rookie. It'll be interesting to see where everybody goes. I've seen a lot of people say Kader will move inside, and I don't know. We'll have to see about that one. I'm not necessarily really have an opinion on either one of those things because I think he can do both pretty well. I think you would love for him to play inside because he's such a good run defender. He's a very physical corner, and he's such a good open field tackler. So putting him in the slot would be awesome. But I could also see him playing on the outside. I mean, he did do that a little bit last year, even though primarily he was inside. So we'll see how the lineup shakes out. But the thing that sucks is we just don't get to see Jalen Ramsey in a Vic Fangio defense with Xavier Howard and the talented front seven. But the thing that's okay is that, the defense is still really, really good. And despite the fact that we're not going to have an all-pro corner out there, which is a big loss, and the fans don't get to see that for the start of the season, and who knows how long after that. A lot of reports have said December. There have been other reports that have said other things. And what I mean by other things, I don't know why my nose is running so bad. What I mean by other things is it's been kind of vague. But the only real timeline is December, which I hope doesn't happen. Hopefully he can come back earlier. But I think the Dolphins' defense will be fine. They're still really talented. I still really like this defense before they even traded for him. Cam Smith edition really came in clutch, especially for the depth. And shout out to Chris Greer for somehow envisioning this happening. But the defense is still good. It just sucks we're not going to see Jalen Ramsey against the Chargers week 1. It's like a massive bummer. Like a massive, massive, massive bummer. It does definitely made me upset. But going back to the timeline, Ian Rappaport reported that he'll be back sometime early December or at the start of December. He reported that before he even went into surgery. Not really sure how he got that information that fast. But there were other reports that there would be really nobody would know until after the surgery. But who knows? I mean, I hope it's before December. I think maybe it's a little bit more wishful thinking. But again, it is a big bummer. But I think the defense will be okay. More than okay. I think they can still be a great defense, even with him not out there. So, this next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins sign Eli Apple to a 1-year deal. Let me get the numbers, make sure. I don't have the numbers. They don't have it in this article for some reason. But it's a very cheap deal. I hope that he doesn't start. I would rather see Cam Smith out there than Eli Apple. So I hope Cam Smith isn't terrible and doesn't win that job. But it'll be a good kind of test for Cam Smith. And one thing that I've noticed about Mike, he doesn't play rookies just to play them. If they're not ready, he's not gonna play them. He's kind of tough on rookies since he's been a Dolphins head coach. So Cam Smith is gonna have to earn it. And Vic Fangio is his coach too, so I'm sure that's even kind of a double whammy. But I hope Eli Apple doesn't start. Eli Apple's played in a lot of big games. He was a part of a very good team defense. But I don't think as an individual, he's not necessarily someone I would want to see suit up in a Dolphins uniform. I would rather see Cam Smith and Kader Kohou be out there most of the time, opposite Xavier Howard. But he's a very good depth guy, a very good guy coming off the bench. I just don't want him to be my starter necessarily. So we'll see what ends up happening with that, but I hope he doesn't start, is my take on that. So that's it for the sad news. To get hit with the Jalen Ramsey thing and then the Dalvin Cook thing was terrible. It sucked. I couldn't think of any. I'm sure I'm missing. Tannehill, that's another one. I forgot about that. We've had terrible injury luck. Tannehill, obviously, missing the next season. He tore his ACL in training camp, too. I remember that. That was a massive bummer. And then, obviously, Jay Cutler ends up coming in. I completely forgot about that. And then, there's another one. Oh, the other two that injuries that are all-time terrible timing. Dolphins, the 90s Dan Marino one's terrible because that team could have won a Super Bowl or at least gotten there. And then Scott Mitchell came in. And the other two were, I think the ones that have bummed me out the most in recent memory were the Tannehill injury in 2016, and he couldn't play in the wild card game against the Steelers, and then obviously Tua not being able to play in the wild card game. So the last two times the Dolphins have made the playoffs, they've had their backup quarterbacks play for them, and that's been terrible. So we've had bad luck, and I know somebody brought up, I think it was Omar Kelly, how durable Jalen Ramsey has been, and as soon as he's a Dolphin, he gets hurt for an extensive. I think in his entire career, he's only missed 6 games, so it just sucks. But those are some of the other ones that have come to mind in terms of injuries. Not to mention the fact that unicorns that year were in and out of the lineup. So this is the first day of training camp. This is some observations. Edge defender Jalen Phillips I think he had gotten stepped on, but he's fine. The first day, he came back day 4. Jalen Waddle had an insanely sick catch on the first day of training camp. He caught, it wasn't a moss, but he caught it over. I'm sure everybody's seen it. Deep pass from Tua when Javon Holland had blanket coverage, and Waddle ended up scoring a touchdown in that play. Xavier Howard had a couple of nice plays on the first day of training camp, breaking up a pass intended for Tyreek Hill. I forgot to mention this whole thing is from Sports Illustrated. This recap of training camp. Rookie cornerback Cam Smith continued the good work he showed in the offseason with some good coverage on a couple of passes in team sessions and might have had an interception if not for wide receiver Braylon Sanders playing DB and breaking up the play. One of his nice plays in coverage came against Jalen Waddle. That is really nice to hear. I love Cam Smith. His talent, he's one of my favorite players in the draft. The only reason I didn't like the pick is we needed a tight end, and this was a good tight end draft. And it just was why did we draft a corner? We just invested in Jalen Ramsey. But now looking at it, obviously, I'm glad we did because Cam Smith has a ton of talent. And if it wasn't for this draft pick, we would be stuck with Eli Apple. So it's good to hear that he is having a really good start to camp and had a good offseason too in OTAs. Shout out to these Sports Illustrated. I think this is last year they started doing this, but shout out to these recaps because these usually not only were behind a paywall, but they weren't very good. But yeah, so thank God Cam Smith is having a good camp so far. Fullback, and again, this is the first day of training camp. Fullback Alec Ingold was among the best performers on the day with a couple of catches and a great stuff block against Bradley Chubb in pass protection. Apparently, he's had a phenomenal first 4 practices. So that's good to hear. Maybe he can kind of be kind of a Kyle Juszczyk type of a guy and make up for some of those tight end deficiencies. Excuse me, sorry. Maybe he can make up for some of those tight end deficiencies that the Dolphins it seems like they're gonna have. Let's see here. Tua's best pass of practice came early in 7-on-7 session when he threw a dart to Waddle at the numbers in the middle of the field. There's a couple of drop passes, not really interesting. Running back Devon Achane got a lot of work with a few carries and a couple of outlet catches. So it sounds like he's continuing his good work into training camp. Now again, pads have not been put on yet, so that is something definitely worth watching. Braxton Berrios came up with a nice low catch when he got down on the ground to grab a pass from Mike White, some 15 yards down the field. Skylar Thompson had a completion about 20 to 25 yards to Tyreek Hill in the middle of the field after Hill came back for it. So Braxton Berrios seems to have been relatively quiet at the start of camp. So yeah, that was all the more interesting stuff that happened on day 1. Moving on to day 2. And again, these are all from Sports Illustrated. The Omar Kelly ones are great. In the 4th one, there's some really nice nuggets in there that I can't wait to talk about. Is there anything interesting that happened on day 2 other than the injury? Quarterback Kader Kohu on the second day of training camp had the first interception of camp on 7-on-7s when he stepped in front of Tyreek Hill to pick off Tua. The Dolphins on the interception. The Dolphins starting quarterback was on target the rest of practice. So that's good. Is there anything interesting else? Cater's killing it in camp so far. It's good to see him continue his momentum. A lot of drops from the receivers on day 2. Is there anything else interesting? Doesn't seem like it. Here's the Channing Tindall tidbit. Second-year linebacker Channing Tindall was more noticeable, though he did drop a would-be interception from Thompson in the middle of the field. At least he's actually doing something, unlike last year. And linebacker David Long met Myles Gaskin in the backfield on a running play. So that's good to hear that David Long is getting more healthy, and we're actually getting to see him play a little bit, which is nice. This is a recap of day 3, which has some really interesting stuff about it. It was linebacker Bradley Chubb who wore the orange jersey as the best player at practice for the previous practice on day 2. As we indicated, the day was all about defense, with the understanding that sacks are unofficial and subjective because defenders let up when they get close to the quarterback for health and safety reasons. The media members who actually watched the practice agreed the number of sacks reached double digits. Omar Kelly tweeted, or he wrote in one of his articles that, I can't remember, but he said this is the best defensive practice he's seen in his, I think he said I don't even know if that's true. This might have been someone else who said this. I think he said 35 seasons that he's been covering for the Dolphins. It was the most dominant performance he had seen. The sacks were a combination of good coverage, some blitzes not picked up properly, and the defensive linemen simply beating the pass rush up front. Everybody had a sack in this practice. Bradley Chubb dominated. Christian Wilkins dominated. Duke Riley had a few sacks on blitzes. Jerome Baker, Zach Sealer. The offense had a terrible day, apparently, in this game. Quarterback Kader Kohou did some very good work in this session with the good coverage against Cedric Wilson and Jalen Waddle. The last of those was a deep pass into the end zone from Tua that was on target, but Kohou was able to knock it away. So, again, we need him to step up in a big way. It sounds like he is. Safety Javon Holland had a blanket coverage against Braxton Berrios from the slot before Noah Igbenogany did the same thing against Robbie Anderson, which is crazy. Rookie cornerback Cam Smith had a pass pickup against Deadwood Davis. I know that's my fan favorite. A lot of people are hyped up to watch him play. Linebacker Malik Reed had a productive practice that included meeting running back Savon Ahmed in the backfield on a running play. None of the quarterbacks shined, but then again, it's not likely they had much of a chance. Nobody was getting open, apparently, in this practice. Rookie running back Devon Achane had the best run of the day when he found a hole on the left side. Cedric Wilson caught a pass on the sideline from Tua, and that's pretty much it. Well, the fact that one of the biggest, I would say, cynical fans of all time in Omar Kelly, the fact that he said that was the best defensive performance he said in 35 years, it means something. I don't know if it was 35 years. That sounds wrong, because Omar Kelly's not an old man. At least I don't remember if he is or not. Maybe it was somebody else who said that, but I know everybody who was there at that practice said it was very, very impressive. So, I mean, you can take that with what you will, but that still, I think, is important. So here are Omar Kelly's 5 takeaways from the 4th practice, and this one has the most interesting stuff in it. On Friday, the Miami Dolphins defense embarrassed the offense, taking them to the woodshed with a 12-sack performance that was a failure across the board. On Sunday, a day after Saturday's break, the Dolphins offense delivered on 2 deep passes and scored at will in the early red zone periods. The performance, which was the team's first in front of fans, wasn't clean. Miami's offense struggled. Again, this is the 4th day. This is Omar Kelly. This is the 4th day of training camp. Miami's offense struggled some during the final red zone session, but it showed there's give and take. I've covered plenty of Dolphins teams where there was only one take, with rare exceptions of the offense giving it to the defense. McDaniel's team hasn't been dominated by one side of the ball during practice so far. In fairness to the defense, this was Miami's first practice in front of fans, and the organization is wise enough to not show too much and give the fans what they want. So the number one thing that stood out to Omar Kelly in this practice is Vic Fangio's defense is complex. Omar says, "I've watched football practices on my nose is running. Practices on a college and professional level every year of my life since 1997, and I've seen just about every offense and defense there is except one. I've never seen anything like Fangio's scheme. While some teams might run zone every once in a while, I can't remember one where it is their base and everything else is built off of it." This is why I like reading Omar stuff, is because to impress this man, you have to be like above and beyond. So coming from him, that means a lot. And it's nice to know, I mean, not that we didn't know Vic was like this good, but it's nice that he is already, it's a noticeable difference from last year. He's already making a huge impact, Vic Fangio. Omar goes on to say about Vic's scheme. He says, "I've covered 3-4 schemes before, but none like what Fangio is seemingly building in Miami. My point, every day I'm seeing something I've never seen and learning something about football. I've actually consulted outside coaches, friends I know, to explain the coverages that he's seeing to me. Fangio's scheme is complex, and the beauty of it is that everything looks the same, but isn't, which is a huge hallmark of any great defense. The fact that everything looks the same to the opposition, but it isn't the same, obviously the biggest negative of any bad defense is it's predictable. And it's nice to know that Vic's scheme is anything but predictable, which was what Josh Boyer was. Fangio's scheme is complex, and again, and the beauty of it is that everything looks the same. The Dolphins, I skipped too far ahead. If what I'm seeing sticks, the Dolphins are going to force plenty of quarterbacks to make mistakes, which is a great news because the defense did not take away the ball, especially early on, and when the Dolphins were going on those win streaks. So to put this offense in good positions is huge. So that's a massive improvement from last year. Is the predictability of the defense was a huge issue last year, and the play calling and decision making, situational decision making on defense was awful. And this defense, the fact that it's this much of a noticeable difference, Omar Kelly saying that the defense should get more turnovers just based off of the scheme alone, is a big W for all of us. The second thing that Omar noticed in the fourth practice, Devon Achane shines on red zone run. The former Texas A&M standout produced what I considered his first impressive run of training camp, when he outsprinted the entire defense and squeezed into the end zone for his first touchdown run on an 11-on-11 drive that started inside the 7-yard line. So, again, it's good to hear that Achane is making plays and is having an effect on camp, and he's having a noticeable effect. This next one sucks to hear, but I don't think anybody would be surprised. The third thing that Omar Kelly noticed on the fourth day of practice is Liam Eichenberg, the O-line's weakest link. I watched one-on-one O-line versus D-line drills closely Sunday, and even though it was a non-padded practice, there was one player whose struggles caught my attention. Every player wins reps and every player loses reps. I become concerned when he loses drastically outweighed the wins, when his losses drastically outweighed the wins. That was the case with Liam Eichenberg. The projected starting left guard lost a lot on the third day of practice. A couple of Dolphins defensive linemen put him on skates, pushing him deep into the make-believe pocket. So Liam Eichenberg having a rough go at it so far in training camp, which has kind of been his career so far as a Dolphin. Like, very, very up and down. He's had some really good games, then he's had, awful games. So hopefully what Omar is seeing gets better. And this is his, second season playing guard. It's just not a good look. This is something that broke my heart when I read this. The fourth thing that Omar Kelly noticed, the tight ends have been invisible. The Dolphins are seemingly de-emphasizing tight ends, and considering how many other weapons they have on the team, this is easy to justify. However, I expected the group to show a pulse during a red zone day. This was not the case. They were all non-factors on Sunday. In fact, at this rate, Alec Ingold might be playing 200 or more snaps this season, which is fine, because that's fine to me. If Alec Ingold, because he's a very talented player, if he can mask that, is because it's a giant hole. The best tight end on the roster right now is Durham Smythe. That's not good. So if Alec can mask that, that's fine. But Omar this is what killed me. Omar goes on to say, Ingold, who played 418 offensive snaps last year, has been killing it in practice. He had a 20-yard touchdown catch, and most of it was after the catch. Most of the yards, he scored from 20 yards out, and it wasn't like he did it on a wheel. He caught it and ran for 20 yards. And 11-on-11. This is where does this part? This is the part that broke my heart. Sorry, guys. As for the tight end batch, Elijah Higgins, who if you've made it this far in the podcast, God bless you. But if you are a weekly listener, you would know that I really like Elijah Higgins, and this sucks to hear. Elijah Higgins moves a lot slower than I expected from a former Stanford receiver. Maybe he's put on weight for his new role as a blocker, but the Dolphins' 2022 sixth-round pick looked like he was wearing ankle weights during Sunday's practice. One of the things I was banking on is that because he played receiver in college, that the part that he wouldn't have a problem with is the athletic part. And the fact that he doesn't look very athletic and looks slow, to the point where Omar Kelly said it looks like he has ankle weights on, sucks. Because that was the part that I didn't fear. The part that I feared was him not being able to play the position itself. Because tight end has a lot of different responsibilities. And and again, if you look at the history of rookie tight ends, it's not great. Not to mention the fact this dude is converting to a tight end. So a lot of things were going against him. And the fact that he doesn't look like a good athlete is not a good sign. So hopefully that maybe Omar Kelly couldn't see well that day, but we'll see. That just is a huge bummer, dude. Massive bummer. And the last thing that Omar Kelly noticed was the fifth thing that Omar Kelly noticed on the fourth day of training camp practice was Dolphins shopping for cornerbacks to safety. Okay, the way he words this is so weird. Dolphins are looking to convert a cornerback to safety. Elijah Campbell was converted to safety last year. A similar conversation was supposedly on the agenda for Trill Williams, but it hasn't happened yet. And there's another cornerback on the roster I witnessed playing safety Sunday. I won't mention who because it would violate the rules. The Dolphins give reporters. But considering that player had previously shown he has a nose for the ball, I'm curious to see if this experiment sticks. This is a very weird, the fact that he said that he had previously shown he has a nose for the ball. I'm like, who in the world? To me, that means maybe Cater they're trying at safety. But then you think, was he why would there's no way it's Xavier Howard. But who knows? I don't know who he could be talking about. So that's something to keep your eye on. Is this mystery corner being converted to safety? So there's a lot of interesting stuff here. It sucks that the tight ends are non-existent, but it's nice to hear that A-Chain throughout these practices has made an impact, and the rookies as a whole have impressed a lot of people. So that's good. So we're gonna end it off with a fan question. This question comes from Mark Jefferson. He says, you know what, before we get into that, I just want to give my overall thoughts on training camp so far. It's been pretty good. I'm very happy with what we're hearing about with the defense because I think that was the thing that needed to improve the most. That and special teams. And it sounds like the defense is headed in the right direction. So I honestly think this is one of the better starts to training camp that I've covered. Probably the best for sure. And the offense is still making plays, a lot of deep throws. I'm sure you guys have all seen them. The one to Deadwood Davis, the one to Jalen Waddle, and the one to Tyreek Hill recently. So the offense is still making plays, and the defense, it's just nice to hear that it's actually improving. So this question comes from Mark. He says, I think with Tua, everything needs to be perfect in order for him to have success. So should Miami go ahead and pay a top-notch running back? Let me read that because I butchered it. I think with Tua, everything needs to be perfect in order for him to have success. So should Miami go ahead and pay top-notch back? No. To answer your question, no, Mark. I disagree with you. I don't think Tua has to have everything. Literally, Tua was the offense last year. Everything ran through him, And that was the biggest problem of the offense, it was too one-dimensional. And a lot of great teams are having this issue in the modern day of the NFL, where they struggle with balance. And last year was a severe issue. Tua had a phenomenal season last year without great pass protection, terrible run block, the most inconsistent run blocking you've ever seen in your life, and a one-dimensional offense with bad starting field position because the special teams sucked, and no short fields and no turnovers from the defense. So I disagree that everything has to be everybody has to be a Pro Bowler for Tua to be a good player. I don't agree with that. I think last year proves that. He threw 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, and 3 of those were in one game where he had a concussion. So I don't necessarily believe that. I think Tua is better than a lot of people give him credit for. I think the reason why people kind of forget how great of a season he had last year is because of the injuries and the 49ers game. And I know some people will bring up the Chargers game was not his fault. The 49ers game and the Packers game, I think, left a lot of people like, what the heck? The first half of that Packers game was phenomenal. Like, he was playing phenomenal football in the first half of that game. And then he has the injury. So I think that, first of all, no quarterback has had a season close to the season that he had last year. And maybe some people would bring up Tannehill in 2016. It's like the close, or Chad Pennington in 2008. But the thing that those two guys had, Chad had a good defense, great offensive line, and a really good running game. I mean, the Wildcat, he wasn't even on the field for that, basically. And then Tannehill had a great running game with Jay Ajayi and a very good offensive line when they were healthy. Tua didn't have any of that. He didn't have anybody helping him out. Other than, obviously, the receiving core. And Mike McDaniel is a good play caller. But other than that, I mean, and everything, like I said, everything ran through him. And he posted the best Dolphins offseason. Or he posted, with him being the starting quarterback, with a bad defense and no run game, posted the best statistical offensive season in terms of passing the football since 1995 for the Miami Dolphins. That means something. And he did that without those things, without a great run game, without a great offensive line, without a great defense, without great starting field position. So that means something, and means a lot, actually, because if you've been watching the Dolphins for a long time, that means a lot. And, those things, I hope, have improved this year. The run game thing is the thing that I'm most concerned about, is I hope the run game can get better, because it needs to get better. I mean, we were a bottom team running the football, and the defense, obviously, I don't really worry about the defense. It's like, all right, they fixed it. They really did. They went above and beyond to fix the defense, and they've accomplished that. But which I'm so excited to see with this offense. But anyway, I don't think Tua needs to have everything perfect around him. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It's a bummer, but I don't let it take too much out of you, because the defense is still really talented and has a phenomenal coaching staff coaching it. And this team is still really talented. So I don't let this take the wind out of your sails. And I'll see you guys in the next one.